Obviously, it's hard to build trust within the market. What was your kind of journey to going from that?
It took us years. It took us very hard, dedicated work to make that happen. So we had to be perfectionists in every movie, in every video game we were a part of. So we had to deliver excellent work that was recognized by the industry over time. So we have all those Emmys, Webbies, Clios. We are associated with Oscars. We are associated with Golden Globes, with the highest industry recognition. And it also took us a lot of declined revenue, I would say. We had to go very deep into projects we are engaging with. We had to decline like majority of the projects that are coming to us because they haven't had permission, or the content wasn't right, or there was misleading in this content. So we had to be extremely cautious, which is somewhat unusual choice for a startup company.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of What's Next? Stories of Industry Reinvention by TechNexus Venture Collaborative. I'm Jim Dahlke, our Director of Communications.
Hey, everyone, and I'm Madeline Rudder, the Senior Director of Collaboration at TechNexus. I'm super excited to be launching this series on reinvention because that's really what TechNexus is. We are an innovation and investment platform that's partnering with large corporations and bringing them together with entrepreneurs, with startups, with the broader ecosystem of technology and innovation.
And today, we're bringing you a really fascinating interview with one of our portfolio founders, Alex Serdiuk, the CEO of Respeecher. Respeecher is a really innovative audio company doing some interesting things in generative AI.
Yeah, this company is really cool. You know, when we think about audio AI and we think about industries that need reinvention, I mean, we're looking at things like Hollywood, like media in general. And Respeecher is really working with all these industries in film and movies and gaming studios and podcasts. So how can we be leveraging voice AI technology in a way to really transform?
And there's really no hotter topic right now than AI and generative AI and deepfakes. And what Respeecher is doing is really taking an ethical approach to generative AI voice technology. Exactly. We're seeing so many kind of shady actors in this space, but they're taking this super ethical approach to voice AI and generative AI. And they're seeing some major traction. They have worked on projects and have been nominated for Oscars. They've worked with everyone from Stan Lee to Tom Hanks. They have really become Hollywood's trusted AI voice technology partner.
What a proof point for a technology company to be like trusted at that level of influence.
Exactly. And what's also so fascinating about this business is it's gone through so much. This is a business that's based in Ukraine, building its technology in the middle of a war. And to a lesser degree, it built its technology during a Hollywood strike, right? So the Hollywood industry, its main source of revenue was shut down during the strike. And so this is a company that's continued to persevere, continued to grow, and continue to thrive. And now we've got a really great interview with TechNexus's Ananya Chugh, who's got a fascinating conversation with Alex Serdiuk.
Amazing. Let's get right into it. Here's Nanya and Alex.
Alex, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So I kind of want to start with, tell me a little bit about, what Respeecher really does as a company and the core problem it's trying to solve within the creative industries.
Yeah, Respeecher does synthetic voices for on the Hollywood production level. So we've been recognized as the only synthetic voice company that does major voices for films, for animation, for video games, for projects over $100 million budget. And we are special in the industry because of the quality of the sound we deliver, as well as because of the trust component we built into our business.
Could you tell us kind of about, the big Hollywood projects or some of the names that our listeners out there might recognize? And could you kind of just give us like a quick breakdown of that?
Yeah, so it's been almost 200 projects we delivered over those years. So at Oscars, we had 4 projects nominated this year: The Brutalist, Emilia Perez, Alien Romulus, and The Better Man. Actually, Better Man is an amazing example of synthetic voice work in documentary biopic. We did all the narration for Robbie Williams' voice for The Better Man, which is a very cool movie. I like it a lot. We did Tom Hanks in here previous year. We did Endurance documentary. We've been engaged in quite a few Star Wars pieces: Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi. We've been at America Got Talent with the voice of Elvis Presley. Just recently, we released something new in educational space. So we made Agatha Christie with BBC Maestro to read a course on writing, which is very cool. We did an audiobook with Callaway, a famous golfer. Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, is using our technology for his podcast, as well as we helped him to voice over 2 audiobooks so far with Respeecher. So it's been a lot of engagement in classical movie space, but we are seeing quite significant traction outside of classical high-end content creation.
Wow, that's a long list of achievements. What's been your favorite to work with so far?
It's hard. It's a hard question. I think I have a passion for historical projects. Respeecher is contributing to, and those projects are usually hard, and in some cases those could be net negative when it comes to the cash outcome of those projects. But it feels so important for me when we bring history back to life, when we highlight history, when we help generations that are active right now to pay more attention to history, because we have this amazing asset, history, that's right now is suppressed by the modern content. So it's really hard to compete with TikTok, with Insta Reels, which are bright, with historical content, which is black and white and poorly recorded. But we have to learn from our history for not making same mistakes over and over again. We have to be deeper in the history. And being Ukrainian, I'm also sure that if my generation and generation of my parents knew history better, we wouldn't end up having such a massive war that Russia launched against Ukraine.
What inspired you and your co-founders to start building something like this in 2018? What was kind of the backstory?
Yeah, actually, it started way before 2018, maybe 2015, 2016. And it all started with just a hackathon where my co-founder, Dmitro, who is a CTO at Respeecher, and he picked this idea of trying to do a very simple voice conversion tool at the hackathon. And it was very different from what people were doing at that hackathon. It was actually organized by Grammarly, one of Ukrainian unicorns.
Oh, wow.
And
I use it every single day.
we won that hackathon, and we ended up thinking about that as a product we can be interested in building, and we started to collect some feedback from the industry. And what we understood, that when we talk to filmmakers, to animation makers, to those folks that are doing high-end content, that they're not using synthetic voice and they would be willing to use it. And the reason they're not using it, it's just bad in terms of quality. So whatever they hear out there in terms of synthetic voices just doesn't cut it in terms of quality, directability. They cannot use it. They cannot mix it into Dolby Atmos. And we thought, look, that's a very cool challenge to bridge the gap in quality, to make it happen, to be the first company who enabled synthetic voice to be in massive productions in this extremely conservative and very high demand industry is something that can unite great minds from the technology perspective, from the sound perspective, from the company building perspective. So we saw that as a challenge which can unite great talent around this challenge.
And that's obviously something that you've really built your company on within these 2 pillars of quality and trust. So how do those 2 core components really guide your development and business strategy? Are those things that really permeate that?
Yeah, when it comes to quality, we saw a a niche there. So it was gap in the market we wanted to fill. So we wanted to bring the synthetic voice to high-end productions. In terms of trust, it mostly came initially from us as humans who founded the company. So we wanted our technology never be misused, our company never be associated with deepfake related things. We were extremely cautious about what we built. We understood that, look, every technology has great use cases and bad use cases. And we want to ensure that Respeecher technology and whatever we spend years of our life for would be used only for good purposes without any bad use cases. So we built this very strong ethics policy, which is actually now stricter than industry ethics policy when it comes to synthetic voice and digital likeness.
Now, going into like the industry like this and facing these kinds of challenges, what were some of the things that worried you at first going into the industry and kind of, you know, building a product like this?
Well, there are plenty of challenges because, I mean, first of all, this industry is extremely slow. It's extremely resistant to adopt new technologies. And it's been through years of this craft being disrupted by different technologies. When people started to film digital, it was a huge thing and a lot of resistance to digital. Now everyone is filming digitally mostly. When some new post-production tools were integrated into the process, it went through resistance. And wherever you build a product in startup setup where you need to grow significantly year over year on such conservative, slow market with a very long sales cycle, it's extremely challenging. And in the meantime, the industry has been driven by fear when it comes to synthetic voice, to digital likeness. And the fear comes from two sources, from productions themselves, from Disney's and Sony's of this world, and from talents themselves, because it's their voices who are being recreated. And in order to go through this fear, along with all the resistance the industry has, you need to be extremely persistent and manage to survive over time of the adoption of the technology. So that's been maybe the most challenging part of our journey.
Speaking on that, I kind of want to dive into some of your high profile projects. So the you know, the Emilia Perez film. The film obviously won an Oscar for Best Original Song. So how is Respeecher's technology used to refine Carla Sofia Gascon's singing voice? I kind of want to know about the specific challenges that you had there.
Oh, that's an amazing project. And we just got back from Cannes Film Festival and we did a big panel specifically on Emilia Perez there with a senior sound supervisor from this movie, Cyril. The challenge was that Emilia Perez, she was going through voice transformation herself, and she was not able to sing. And the movie had to have this song. So the goal was to recreate her singing voice on top of another performer in terms of making it sound right, like she were singing while when going through this voice transformation. And it was so cool to see that this particular movie won the Oscar for the best song, the exact work we somehow contributed to.
Yes, huge congratulations.
Thank you.
And then I think the other thing I wanted to know about was the Brutalist. How did Respeecher kind of, you know, polish actors' Hungarian voices for Hungarian listeners?
Yeah, it was a very hands-on project. So essentially, Brady Corbett, the director of the movie, as other great directors, he is perfectionist. He needs to make it perfect, so it should sound right. And when it comes to Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones speaking Hungarian parts in the movie, he wanted to be sure that this Hungarian sounds right. So even Hungarian listener or someone who can catch accent would not be cringy about what they hear. And that's a common thing when actors try to make an accent they're not native to, they often fail, and it sounds not good for native speakers. Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones, they were going through a very massive training. So they worked with accent coach for many months. But the thing is, Hungarian as a language, as an accent, is one of the hardest to get. So it's no one but Hungarians can make it perfect, generally speaking. And they did amazing job in learning how to pronounce things in Hungarian. But the thing is, some of the vowels, some of the consonants, some of the tiny things were not right. So our goal was to make those tiny things right and inject those particular vowels and particular pieces into their performance that they recorded themselves in order to make the accent perfect. So that's exactly what was done for the Brutalist. And it's been so amazing to work with that team and be part of this movie, which is one of the greatest movies with one of the greatest directors.
Right. Would you say kind of getting accents right is one of the most challenging things, or would you say it's something that you've refined?
I mean, accents has been quite a big chunk of our work lately. And I mean, it really depends on the setup, but in general, it's not the hardest thing to do. I guess the hardest thing for our team to do is to work with data which is very old and very limited in quality and quantity. I mean, for instance, back in 2021, I guess, we did the voice of Vince Lombardi for Super Bowl. And back then, we had just a couple of minutes of Vince Lombardi speaking clean. So we had this clean recording of just a couple of minutes, which was a tiny amount of what we needed usually. So we relied on like hour or even more data. For endurance documentary we did for National Geographic recently, which is one of my top movies for Respeecher previous year, we recreated voices that were recorded on very first recording devices, Vox cylinders. And that's an amazing historical project. So that's the story about South Pole explorers, about Shackleton and his team, who managed to survive in ice for many months, and no one died. They got back. Their ship sank. And at some point, a couple of years ago, there was an expedition that found those recordings of the voices of Shackleton and his team and their diaries on the ship. And the documentary was actually about recreating their diaries with their voices and telling this story from a very new perspective. So I would say that in some cases, technology, when it comes to historical projects, enables creativity.
Right.
But in general, yeah, extreme emotions are somewhat hard. Limited data in terms of quality and quantity always imposes some additional challenges.
What's been your most hands-on project so far?
I mean, it depends, because back in days when we just started, like The Mandalorian, taken months of work, but our technology was way weaker than it's now, right? Back then, it was very extensive project for the team. Right now, if we do the same setup, we would do that in weeks, so it would be easy. But the thing is, it's always related to the way how our client, the studio, works with this particular job. For instance, in Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett or Obi-Wan, Skywalker Sound, they recorded, in some cases, thousands of takes for each line. And we trained dozens of models, of voice models. And then we run those thousands of takes through dozens of models, and they listened to everything. And they found like particular pieces that they liked, and they provided feedback on those pieces. And then we had to address this feedback on the model level and do new conversions. So it could be as hands-on project as this, but in many cases we just give a tool to our clients and they convert the stuff on their end.
One more specific project I wanted to touch on was The Hurt. How are you kind of able to de-age Tom Hanks' voice in that one?
Oh, that was a cool one. So the story plot of this movie is actually Tom Hanks and Robin Wright going through very different ages. So they age throughout the movie within like one location, actually. And they were visually manipulated using metaphysics technology, which is one of the best in the market, to make them look younger. And for some versions of Tom Hanks' voice, we had to make him sound younger. And he actually performed a lot himself in terms of his younger versions, but there were some particular ages we had to help with. So that's de-aging, like classical de-aging. The particular person operates with their younger version of their voice. So they perform themselves, but the technology is being applied to make them sound exactly like they sounded like 40, 50 years ago. And the same was for many other projects. So it's been a common request from the industry, because there are a lot of like derivative content being created and a lot of voices that have to sound consistent in order to preserve the characters.
Right. And you've had a total of now 4 Oscar nominated projects. What kind of, level of recognition, what does that mean for Respeecher, and how does this broader acceptance of AI voice technology, what does that mean for Hollywood?
Yeah, I mean, in general, Hollywood has been going through quite a lot of transformation recently, over the last decade, I would say. And it's been going through strikes. It's been going through a lot of navigation, a lot of misconceptions they had to understand, clarify when it comes to the technology. But now it's clear that it's no longer a question for Hollywood productions and for talents whether they would embrace and use technology like this on scale. It's more about the question how they would use technology on scale, keeping it ethical and upright for the industry. And that's exactly the point where we are at. So all the studios, they're now thinking about the use cases. We've been pitching them for years, but never getting traction significantly, like pre-production, prod, way massively on post-production, amusement parks, contact centers, marketing, trailers. You can use synthetic voice a lot, not just in ADR or in post-production and classical post-production. And they've been quite stale for several years in terms of addressing those use cases and putting them on their agenda. But now they seem to be navigated. And as we see, there are plenty of movies at Oscars who embraced AI, did that ethically, did that responsibly, and Academy gave those Oscars and helped the industry to navigate through tools that are being used.
Right. And now you're transferring to a platform licensing business. What does this shift mean in practical terms for creators and studios?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, from the very early days, Respeecher had to operate as an agency, and we've been engaged on project work. So we worked on this particular movie, say on Mandalorian. Then our job is done, and we go to work on the next movie, which is not very scalable business per se, right? It's not a startup story. You can grow an agency, but it's not an exponential growth you can attack. In the meantime, we've been improving our technology. So our strategy was to hit the quality mark, so it would be accepted by the industry, it would be mixed into Dolby Atmos, it would become like a standard in Hollywood for synthetic voice when it comes to whatever use case for synthetic voice they have in mind. And then we started to improve our technology towards usability, scalability, being autonomous from humans to be involved. And we made quite significant progress in that regard over the last couple of years. So we started with speech-to-speech. Now we have speech-to-speech on API. We have real-time speech-to-speech. We have accent changer. We have it working in real time. We added text-to-speech way later than other companies did it, because most of the companies who are in synthetic voice space, they start with text-to-speech. We actually started with speech-to-speech. And then we made text-to-speech to work on Respeecher level of quality, meaning Hollywood level of quality. We made text-to-speech to work in real time. And now we have this zoo of synthetic voice technologies that can serve whatever use case a big Hollywood studio on a scale of Disney, Comcast, or Sony have in mind, as well as the industry of the synthetic voice is just about to unwrap. So we are yet to see voice-first interfaces, which are, in my opinion, are being actively created right now, because the way how we communicate with computer, with the device, has changed. So now it's a partner, it's not a tool, and the best way to communicate with something partner-like is verbal channel of communication. We see how AI agents are growing, and they all need voices.
Right.
So we are supporting this industry with all the technology we built so far, all the proprietary Respeecher technology that was tested against the most conservative and the pickiest market out there. And here we bring the platform vision. So to studios, we are doing platform. But additionally to that, there are some cases where we deploy particular voice models on a studio end, and they use it extensively to create, in some cases, even billion voice overviews of a day, for instance, for an event. And here we pursue the licensing line of business. So we are being paid per voice model, per month or per year. And those voice models we support and improve over time.
And now I heard you've signed some really exciting deals recently with celebrity estates like, Chris Farley, Orson Wells, Stan Lee. How does this licensing model work with them, and what opportunities does that open up for big studios and smaller creators alike?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, that's the second part of our strategy. We engage directly with talent, and we are somewhat unique position to be engaging directly with talent because we meet a lot of talent throughout our classical agency work, throughout those films where our technology is being used for those particular voices. But also we have this reputation in the industry. We have the trust, not from like studios, but also from the talents we worked with throughout those 200 projects we delivered so far. And we have quality that's applicable for the the target market for Hollywood celebrities or athletes. And our pitch to them that, look, we would create synthetic voice models for you at our own cost. Those voice models would be at a trusted partner site, which is Respeecher. No one would have access to your voice models before, unless you approved the access to your voice models. But the thing is, if Disney wants to engage with your voice, and you confirm that and you negotiate the terms, you can do that the very next day. And now for Disney, it would take many months to actually set up a project with someone's synthetic voice to be used. But also we encourage them to embrace opportunities outside of classical movie, animation, video game production, because there is a huge democratization angle that's happening in the industry, right? So now it's possible to create an amazing movie at a small fraction of cost of a Hollywood movie. So you can have like $1,000 or $10K budget, and you can create something that could land to Netflix, that could bring millions in box office. And all those creators, they need high quality voices. They need access to talent, and they don't have it because they are too small. We want to open this stream. We want top talent, to be able to see the demand for their synthetic voice, not through those unauthorized platforms where anyone can go and clone whoever voice they want, but through an authorized platform where those voice models would actually be licensed through Respeecher to the end production, and the transaction would happen, and it would be right from the likeness standpoint, it would be right on the legal side of things.
It takes very studio high grade quality, like you said, and very strict ethical compliance. And kind of I wanted to know a little bit about why that's like a very foundational decision in terms of your ethical compliance and the technical safeguards that you kind of take in approaching this.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, we ended up at some point competing with unethical synthetic voice providers. So whoever allows white audience or just whoever clone someone's voice without their permission is unethical, in our opinion. So that's not the right thing to do. It could boost some creativity. It could fall into some parody law domain. You can be a platform that's somewhat at a distance of that, so you can rely. You can put all the responsibility on the end user, and it would just shrink there. But the thing is, it's not the right thing to do, in our opinion. It's not the right way of making this technology business happen. Our way is pure ethical, but it's really hard to compete in like classical mass market scenario when you're competing with unethical providers, because you're not getting this virality. You cannot let a user to clone the voice of Joe Biden and make those election intrusions or create porn with the voices of Hollywood celebrities. You just close this part of the technology to be at the user end. Therefore, we had to focus on top of the market and put all our bets on ethics and reputation. And we hope that those bets would play out, because I mean, the market does take time to unwrap. The market has been very resistant to the technology adoption. But now we are at the moment where we see this bifurcation point. So it changes, and it changes actively.
You kind of already posed my question, but in that way, obviously, it's hard to build trust within the market. What was your kind of journey to going from that?
It took us years. It took us very hard, dedicated work to make that happen. So we had to be perfectionists in every movie, in every video game we were part of. So we had to deliver excellent work that was recognized by the industry over time. So we have all those Emmys, Webbies, Clios. We are associated with Oscars. We are associated with Golden Globes, with the highest industry recognition. And it also took us a lot of declined revenue, I would say. We had to go very deep into projects we are engaging with. We had to decline like majority of the projects that are coming to us because they haven't had permission, or the content wasn't right, or there was misleading in this content. So we had to be extremely cautious, which is somewhat unusual choice for a startup company, right? Because startup usually builds product that can scale right away. Our approach, given that we are dealing with very sensitive domain, which is digital likeness, it's completely new asset that has been created over the last couple of years, I would say, and it requires quite a lot of thought and sensitivity to be put into the way how you frame the process, how you frame the business.
I can imagine that would be difficult. Was there ever like a project that you were very wary in approaching, or something that you turned down, maybe because it wasn't ethical?
It was a lot of those. So we declined more projects than we actually did. So we used to have like significant inbound on projects where there is no permission from the target voice. And there is the first question our team asks: if there is permission or production is going to obtain one in the near future. We declined all the political projects. So we've been approached by politicians, and they have their permission to clone their voice, and they want to have a very wide reach to their audience. So they want to create those very granular ads out there, and we don't want Respeecher and this technology to be associated with active politics at all. We've been approached by talents that gave their permission to recreate their voice, but they wanted to be engaged into creating misleading ads, which we didn't want to be associated with. We've been approached by some rappers who also had their permissions, but they've been in jail for some really bad things they did. So it's been a lot of double checks our team had to perform over time on the projects.
Where are you seeing kind of the significant growth areas in the future to fill?
I mean, the creation industry is becoming a huge one. So we can say that Hollywood, to some extent, is in decline for the last couple of years. But the thing is, the IP that's being created or initiated in Hollywood, it doesn't stay there as is. So it develops. There is a lot of derivative content. You cannot draw a very fine line between a movie and a video game because those characters, they travel all alone and there is a lot of derivative content being created. And in the meantime, as I mentioned, there is a huge democratization in content creation industry happening right now. And there are plenty of amazing builders out there who could be creating new massive video games or new Squid games in their basements, right? Using different tools. And they need access to voices. They need access to authorized voices. They need access to the quality, to the synthetic voice quality that could land on Netflix, that could be used in a popular video game. So we are now at the point where small creators could be competing with Sony's or Disney's of this world. And they have quite a few instruments in their acquaintance to make that happen, but they also need quality. So they could not suffice with those tools they see in the market that are easily accessible. They need high quality products because they're competing with high quality products.
And how has, our company, TechNexus Venture Collaborative, played a role in supporting Respeecher's growth and strategic decisions?
Oh, you guys were early in the Respeecher journey, and Fred and team were one of my first calls when things go hard or we have some issues. Also, what's special about TechNexus that your team has seen a lot of unclassical startups,
Right.
I would say. And you've been dealing with those industries that are hard to attack, which are very conservative, which are very like B2B-ish with very long sales cycle. So it's, I noticed that the team at TechNexus, they know this drill. They know this part of the startup story when you are building not just a pure SaaS, you are building business that's relying on things like quality or reputation, which takes time to nurture. And TechNexus has been a great supporter in that regard.
Great. Now, Alex, I don't want to take up too much of your time. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm so glad that we were, happy to chat about all these exciting projects that are coming up.
Thank you so much, Emilia.